sanctions. Furthermore, Pakistan has advised all Indian nationals currently residing in Pakistan to return immediately. In a reciprocal measure, Pakistan has urged all its nationals in India to depart before the expiration of their visas. The situation remains fluid as diplomatic efforts continue. We move on now. US Treasury Scott Bessent has said that the high tariffs imposed on China by the Trump administration are not sustainable, signalling a potential shift in US trade policy. Bessent emphasized that the current 145% tariff on Chinese goods and 125% tariff on US products cannot last in the long term, noting that both sides acknowledge the unsustainability of these levies. Let's take a listen in to what Bessent had to say.
China's current economic model is built on exporting its way out of its economic troubles. It's an unsustainable model that is not only harming China, but the entire world.
Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has indicated that he may resume tariffs on Chinese imports, depending on the outcome of ongoing trade talks. This is what Trump had to say on making a trade deal with China.
On Chinese goods.
Well, that depends on them. We have a situation where we have a very, very great place. It's called the United States of America, and it's been ripped off for years and years. These people know it.
Beijing says any claims of ongoing trade talks with Washington were groundless after US President Donald Trump played up the prospects of a deal to lower hefty tariffs he imposed on China. Here is what the Chinese Commerce Ministry spokesman further said.
作为对外经贸关系的主管部门，我想强调的是，目前中美之间未进行任何经贸谈判。任何关于中美经贸谈判进展的说法，都是捕风捉影，没有事实依据。
In a related development, 12 US states have filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing that the tariffs are essentially tax hikes that were imposed without congressional approval. The lawsuit states that tariffs must be approved by Congress and questioned Trump invoking a 1970s law called the International Economic Emergency Powers Act to enact the levies. The International Monetary Fund has also weighed in, warning that the tariffs will slow global economic growth and exacerbate debt levels. Now, to discuss this further, we're joined by Srikanth Kondanpalli, Professor of China Studies at JNU. Thank you very much for joining us. Professor, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says that these tariffs are unsustainable. Is this the first real crack in Trump's tough trade posture?
Well, we do not know exactly whether there will be any change, revisions in the Liberation Day tariffs announced on April 2nd. These have increased, obviously, up to nearly 245%. And in some cases, in Cambodia and Laos, to almost 1,300% or so. So there is the tariffs that were imposed across the board. And while a reprieve was given to nearly 90 countries, but they have sustained over China these 245% of the tariffs. Now the plan B that the Treasury Secretary was mentioning is that they will not decrease the tariffs to zero level, but it would be somewhere between 50% to 65%, which would mean that the tariffs on China will remain, even though these will be reduced from 245% announced recently by President Trump, number one. Number two, I think the emphasis is on critical, exports from China to the United States. So there will be more tariffs on some products compared to the other low-tech, medium-tech products. So this is another view that is coming up from the White House.
Yes.
There is also, of course, the suggestion by China about 4 conditions for the resumption of a dialogue process between the two. And they want to have a lead negotiator, and the threats, etc., need to be stopped, as well as some decorum need to be maintained. The suggestion on there should be no blackmail on the Chinese.
Yes.
It is not clear whether the United States will accept these or not. Nevertheless, there is a team currently of a low-level economic officers from China attending the IMF World Bank discussions as we speak now, and they are expected to go back to China today. So let us see what happens.
Yes, and Professor Kondapalli, obviously, China has said that these trade negotiations haven't started yet. Donald Trump says they're going very well. What do you make of Donald Trump's negotiating when it comes to his trade talks?
I think there may have been some back-channel diplomacy and talks that are going on. These are outside the purview of public scrutiny, and much of the discussion happens actually at this level. And the leaders generally announce the outcome of these discussions. So we do not know exactly what is going on, but there are some Chinese negotiators in Washington, D.C., of course, attending other functions like the Bretton Woods institutions, but we are not very sure about those in relation to direct negotiations with the United States.
Yes, and one final question, Professor Kondapalli. Sorry. With the tariffs now at 145% on China and 125% on US goods, are we already in a full-blown trade war, or is this just a sort of stalemate?
Indeed, it is, and in a negative manner, stalemate, because of the tariffs, the Chinese exports have fallen they were curbed due to the shipping curbs in the United States. There is an expectation that if these tariffs are to be implemented for over a long period of time, 80% of the Chinese shipping would be shut down in the United States. Of course, China is planning to divert them to other destinations like South America, like Africa, like Asia. However, the problem with these countries is their domestic consumption is very less. Even China's domestic consumption is just about 53% compared to 69% in the United States. In comparison, in India, it is about 63% domestic consumption. So that means that the Chinese cannot really divert much of their trade to other countries because the United States consumption is pretty high.
Professor Kondapalli, thank you very much